Think I might be live, but I think I messed something up. Dang it, I might have to start over. Uh, Shoot. Yeah, I think I messed up. Alright, if you guys can hear me, which I don't know if you can or you can't, but I'll be right back. Just give me like 1 minute. I just gotta restart everything, so I'll be right back. Okay, I think I might have figured it out. Let me see. I wish this was like more in real time because it's really delayed on my phone from what I can see. Let me see here. Sorry guys, I'm brand new to streaming. I'm not sure how to do all this, and I'm trying to use OBS because I want to be able to show you guys. I want to be able to show you guys the screen, and I want to be able to talk to you guys about different stocks and stuff. So it should be a fun stream. So if you can just hang in there for like a minute, I just got to figure this out. So let me see. I'm trying to pull up the chat so that I can see like what you guys are saying, but it's not letting me. I'm trying to do it on a different tablet so I can like see it and record at the same time. Let me try this. Okay, so I think I might have it. I think I might have like a decent situation going. So if you guys can hear me and everything sounds okay, just let me know. I'll wait for like somebody to respond to the chat. Let me see. I think there might be a delay too. I'm not sure, but let me see if anybody's saying anything. The last comment I can see is from Charles Jones. He says, "What's up, Ale?" Let me see. Maybe if I pull it up on the laptop. Okay, someone says it's good. Okay, we can hear you. Okay, all right. So, okay, I think it's working then. Okay. All right, yeah. Okay, so everything seems like it's working now. Okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to talk to you guys about, and then I'll also try to look at your comments too, but I'm going to be talking for a little while, so I might skip like some of the comments right now just while I kind of get things started. And I also have a little brewski that I want to try. So, well, actually, this is like one of my favorite beers, so I want to just pour this out really quick before we get started, because this will be a nice little chat that we're gonna have about AMD and about my portfolio and a lot of other stuff. So okay, so what's basically going on is we're looking at like AMD. So AMD recently went up a pretty decent amount. So if you can see here, and hopefully I'm not delayed, hopefully the voice isn't delayed, but when I'm actually showing you something, hopefully you're hearing my voice at the right time. But as you can see here on Thursday, the stock went up by like 16%. So, oh, sorry guys, somebody said, what's the beer? It is Golden Road Mango Cart. So hopefully you can see it's like one of my favorites. It's a really good beer. Tastes like just drinking a mango. It's so good. Okay, so I just probably got demonetized. I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so when looking at AMD, it recently shot up by like 16% on Thursday. And for me, I just feel like AMD stock is getting really high at this point. And because I bought this stock at such low prices, like I bought into AMD stock when it was trading at around $10 a share. So, sorry, my girlfriend's calling me. She always seems to call when I'm trying to do a live stream. So I bought this stock when it was trading at around $10 a share. today it's trading closer to like $34, $35 a share. And and so I've made a lot of profits on AMD. The stock has gone up a lot. I have sold at different prices. I've sold like in the 20s, I've sold in the 30s, but I've basically made a lot of money on AMD. I've basically made like hundreds of percents at this point. Like I basically sold like at 100% profit. I've sold like at a 200% profit. So for me, it just doesn't really make sense to keep holding on to AMD stock at this point. And there's a couple reasons for it, and it's not because I don't believe in AMD. I actually still think that AMD is headed in the right direction, and I love everything that they're doing. In fact, when you look at some of the reasons why the stock has been shooting up, like the reason why it shot up on Thursday by 16% is because they announced a new partnership with Google. So now, excuse me, their EPYC Rome chips, I believe, so that should be their 7nm chips, are going to be used by Google. And Google is like the third big company that you want in the data center, because you've basically got Google, you basically have Google, you have Microsoft, and you have Amazon. And all three companies have these giant data centers with like thousands of servers. And so because they're going to be using AMD chips in conjunction with also Intel, it's a huge deal for AMD, because the total addressable market for AMD in the data center is supposed to be around $30 billion. And I believe it's like $29 billion. But I think like 17 billion is on the CPU side. So when looking at EPYC, that's the CPU side that they're kind of competing with Intel. So that's a huge deal. I believe at the end of last year, AMD only had like 3% of the data center market. Now they're expecting to have like 10% I think in like the first half of 2020, like sometime next year, they're expecting to have like 10%. So that could be, around like $2 billion or something like that. So it's definitely a lot of money for them. It's a lot of revenue. It could be maybe like 20%, excuse me, it could be like around 20% revenue for them, which is a huge deal. So I like what AMD is doing, and their EPYC chips are performing now very similarly to Intel, in some cases even better, and they sell for much cheaper. I've seen some that sell for like half the price of Intel. So they're definitely doing the right things, and Lisa Su is leading them in the right direction. They're now offering better performance and or at least comparable performance for cheaper prices. So because of that, I still like AMD, and I like how they're competing with NVIDIA. But for me personally, I have a lot of stocks already, and AMD is one of those that just has a really high valuation. So if we take a look at the valuation here, we can see that their trailing P ratio is like close to 200. It's like 188. So they have a really high trailing P ratio. Now their forward P ratio gets much better at 32 because they have a lot of growth. And I don't see that growth really slowing down, because I feel like they're doing all the right things and they're attacking the right markets and they're being very competitive. So so I would like to hold AMD. They even have a PEG ratio that is still pretty attractive at 1.5. But for me, the valuation is just getting kind of up there. And because we have the whole trade war kind of escalating a little bit, we could definitely have a correction at any moment in the market. And if you guys remember the last correction that we had with AMD, well, the last correction that we had with the market, AMD stock like really tanked. So let's kind of try to back out here. You can see here that like in 2018, look at how much it fell. It fell from like the high 30s all the way down to below 20. It was getting close to like 15. I think at one point it was even trading at like 15 or so. So the stock really tanked. I mean, it tanked by like 50% when we had that last correction in the market. And at this point, I kind of feel like we're probably overdue for a big correction, and I feel like we could have one at any moment. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm not saying AMD stock will go down. In fact, all signs are really pointing to AMD stock continuing to go up. But if I can get AMD again at a cheaper price, that would be great. And at this point, because I bought AMD at such a low price, mostly around the $10 range, because I bought the stock mostly in the $10 range, and I've cashed in such high profits, and now I'm going to be cashing in such high profits, like whatever happens with AMD at this point, even if it keeps climbing, I'll be comfortable with what I've done with AMD because I made so much money on that stock. AMD used to be like my second largest stock. At one point, it was like 30% of my portfolio, and this is a stock that went up that I've sold at like 100% gain, at 200% gain. At this point, it's like a 200% gain. And yes, I've bought and sold at different levels, but mostly just kind of overall, that's been mostly the ranges where I've bought and sold. So for me, I'm just really happy with how I've performed with AMD stock, and I'm just at that point where I'm kind of ready to just cash in my profits and just kind of lock that in, because I don't want to risk losing all of that. Now, I mentioned my portfolio, and again, this is not because I don't believe in AMD. Like, I already see some comments here, people saying, let me see here. Some people saying that they don't want me to sell. Some people say, let me see, like this person says AMD likely going higher. Don't do it, Ale. And then another person says 7 nanometer future is looking great. And I agree with you guys. But it's just not really worth it for me. It's not really worth to keep risking it, because when you have a stock that goes up by hundreds of percents in just a matter of like a couple years, like at some point you got to just cash in those profits. And again, I just really feel like we're gonna have a correction at some point. So because of those reasons, I'd just rather just lock in those profits. And you know what's gonna happen, as soon as we get a correction, people are gonna be saying that AMD is one of my biggest stocks and I lost all my money because it crashed during the correction. And you know, people are gonna be talking all the trash that they always talk. But actually, that leads me to the second thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and that is my stock market portfolio. Again, I hope that my voice is synced up with what I'm showing you. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the comments really quick just to make sure I'm not missing anything like big. But okay, so somebody says, are you thinking about cashing it all or partially? So the thing is, if you guys can see my portfolio on here, AMD stock, this is the last time that I showed you guys my portfolio. These values have changed a little bit, but I didn't want to go through and like change all these again. And I've actually bought a couple more stocks too. But if you guys look at this, the last time that I showed you my portfolio was maybe like less than 2 months ago. And AMD stock was about 4% of my portfolio at that time. And the reason why was because, again, AMD used to be like one of my absolute biggest stocks, but I cashed in huge profits, mostly in the 20s and in the 30s. And I kept a little bit because I just saw so much potential with their 7 nanometer lineup. And I still see that potential. I want to make that clear. I'm still bullish on AMD. It's like a personal thing. It's a personal situational thing where I bought this stock at such a low price and I've made so much money on it that I'm just kind of ready to cash that in, lock in those profits. And if the stock was to correct back down to a much lower price, I mean, we took a look at their PE ratio and it's sky high. Their PE ratio is so high. If that stock was to come back down a little bit more to reality, I would absolutely be willing to invest again in AMD. But for me, it's kind of like, I feel like I rode the wave of all the hype, and that's usually where stocks really climb the most, is when they have all the hype behind them. And then once the hype kind of dies out and people come back to reality, they usually come back down a little bit. I'm not saying that will happen with AMD. Again, all signs are pointing to AMD going much higher. Shoot, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised we end up seeing AMD stock trading at $50 next year. I would not be surprised. But again, just for me personally, it's a situational thing. I have all these different stocks. I have so many stocks in my portfolio. And I've already picked up a couple others. Like, I've started investing in Tencent. I've started investing in AbbVie. So my portfolio is already very large. I have a lot of stocks already. And I have a lot of exposure to the semiconductor industry too. Like, if you look at my chip stocks, I have NVIDIA, I have TSMC. TSMC is probably another one that I will be selling too, just to be honest with you guys. So AMD and TSMC, two stocks that I've performed very well with. And it's just that time. I don't know. I feel like I kind of just have to lock in those profits. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to, okay, and so some people are agreeing with me. Let's see here. Let's see. So one person says, "Good move in my opinion." That's a Cascades Academy. I think that's a YouTuber. I think it's a good YouTuber. I gotta check them out. But anyway, some other people say, you've got a lot of tech. So I agree. I have a lot of tech. And think about it this way. If I was to get rid of AMD and I was to get rid of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor, that reduces my exposure to tech, and it extremely reduces my exposure to all these chip stocks. And the thing about Nvidia is that I feel Nvidia is actually much more attractive in terms of the price right now. I know it's not attractive in terms of like necessarily how their business is performing, because AMD, in my opinion, is performing better in terms of what they're doing and how they're kind of growing and how they're expected to grow, at least in the short term. But for me, Nvidia long term, I just see a little bit more potential with Nvidia at the current price. So I'm at the point now where everybody's so bearish on Nvidia, and you guys know me, I like to buy stocks when they're down rather than when they're up. So I see a stock like Nvidia, and I just think, man, everybody hates Nvidia right now. Everybody loves AMD right now. Maybe I should consider switching, because I always like to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And again, like it sucks that I'm talking kind of bad about AMD. I really don't want to talk bad about AMD because it is still one of my favorite stocks, but it's just a personal situational thing. Let's see. One person says Tencent sucks. I disagree with you. He says he bought Tencent at $48 to $50 last year. Well, if you're thinking short term, then yeah, any stock can suck. I mean, if you want to sell it, that's completely your choice. I don't have a problem with that. And honestly, if I'm just giving my honest opinion, I think Tencent will go down in the short term. I think it's going to go down a lot more. And when we get this correction that I'm kind of expecting for the stock market, I think Tencent will really be hurt a lot. I barely touched Tencent. I know I made a video saying that I'm buying Tencent now. I barely touched that stock. Like, it's nothing in my portfolio. I'm really expecting that stock to really come down. And that's when I really want to start buying Tencent. So I want to make that clear too. I probably didn't make that clear enough in that video, that it's literally nothing to me right now. I'm gonna make it. I want to make Tencent a really big position. I really believe in Tencent in the long term. They have their hands in everything in China. Like, I feel like they're everywhere. And at least when looking at technology, and at least when looking at internet technology, they're really everywhere. And so I really believe in Tencent. I want it to be a very big position, but I think it's going to be going down in the short term. So like for me personally, I'm definitely not going big on Tencent right now, but I do want to in the future. So, okay, a couple other things. Sorry, let me get a little sip. Okay. So a couple other things. I wanted to talk to you guys about my portfolio a little bit, because lately I've been getting a lot of comments from people that say that all of my stocks are down. So I don't know if you guys saw the thumbnail, but I kind of put in there. Actually, let me see if that even updated. Hopefully it updated with the thumbnail. Okay, yeah, it did update with the thumbnail. But yeah, I basically put that thumbnail saying like all my stocks are down ? Because lately I don't know what's been going on, but I think here's my assumption. Because I've been talking a lot about Tesla lately, I've been making a lot of Tesla videos. Tesla is one of the most polarizing stocks out there, and I think a lot of people, a lot of the kind of bears, or like the extreme bears, who are also kind of known to be somewhat trollish, have been kind of coming into some of my videos and leaving like some really weird looking comments. And I'm not saying that you can't be bearish on Tesla. I fully acknowledge that there are a lot of concerns with Tesla. In fact, look guys, these three stocks right here, 2U, NEO, and Tesla, those three make up the speculative portion of my portfolio. I say this many times. Oh, by the way, sorry guys, quick shout out to Millennial Investing. He's actually like a friend of mine. I think he's a really cool dude. He says, I agree with Nvidia over the long term. They straight up have the best GPUs you can buy. Not even a question. So anyway, thanks for the comment. I guess some people are asking about beer. Oh, so someone says, is that Modelo beer? I love Modelo. Modelo is one of my favorite beers. But no, this one is called Golden Road Mango Cart, and it's super good. But back to what I was saying. So these three stocks make up the speculative portion of my portfolio: Tesla, NEO, and 2U. And the reason for that is because I still think that all three of these are very risky, and the reason why is because they're not sustainably profitable. I mean, like NEO and 2U are like a joke at this point. Like they're performing so incredibly bad. They've had so many issues. But Tesla is becoming more interesting to me. I'm becoming more and more bullish on Tesla as time goes by, just because I see the long-term potential. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still that risk of the company not being sustainably profitable. It's something that you definitely have to worry about. And come recession time, that's a big deal. Now, I know like Jeremy and other people have made like from financial education. By the way, shout out to Jeremy Financial Education. I'm gonna be hanging out with him soon. Hopefully, I can like maybe, I don't know, like record something or like maybe just take a picture or something and put it on Instagram. I usually show that kind of stuff on my Instagram. But anyway, I know that some of them make the argument that Elon Musk can raise money kind of like in any situation, and it's probably true, but it's still a concern. And so I think that there are actually some rational Tesla bears out there, but I think that Tesla is such a polarizing stock, and I think you're not being realistic if you actually believe that this stock is not being manipulated and this company is not being manipulated. If when I look back at like companies that have been manipulated, Tesla is one of the most hated companies out there. And why? I always ask myself why. Why do people hate Tesla so much? Obviously, we know the reasons. We've covered it on my channel, but there's no real reasons for people to hate this company as much as they hate it. It's not like it's a evil company. It's not like they're doing something evil. I actually think they're doing good stuff, but people hate it, and because of that, there's been a lot of manipulation. And I think that I've attracted, this is like me putting my conspiracy hat on, but I think I've attracted a lot of those kind of manipulative people from my Tesla videos and onto my channel, and they've been leaving some really weird comments. And so what am I talking about when I say these weird comments? I mean that they leave comments saying that all of my stocks are down. They say comments that like, this guy never chooses good stocks, all of his stocks are horrible stocks, they all go down, they are all down. And really, really strong comments like that, like literally saying all of them are down, which is ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, I'll even give you an example of someone who left a comment saying, this is literally what somebody said. You guys are gonna freaking laugh at this one, especially if you're a long time viewer. You're gonna really think this one's funny. But he literally said that all my stocks are down, and the stocks that he mentioned were Disney. He mentioned Disney. He's saying Disney is down, which we'll take a look at Disney in a second if you guys want to look at it. But he says my Disney stock is down. He says that my AMD stock is down. AMD, guys, the stock that I bought at $10 and I sold at 20 and I sold at 30, and now I'm gonna sell the rest of it right now at around 34. He says that one is down. He literally mentioned AMD. So he says Disney is down. He says AMD is down. He said that my Tesla stock is down, which, by the way, I'm actually up on Tesla. I've showed you guys my cost. I never show you guys my cost basis. I don't show you guys how many stocks I own. I don't show you guys my exact prices. I don't show you how many shares, how much dollar value, because a lot of my friends and family watch my videos, and I also don't want people copying everything I do, so I don't show you guys a lot of information. But for sometimes actually too, like sometimes something just kind of ticks me off, and so I just feel like just showing it just to get people to stop like spreading lies. But with Tesla, I actually showed you guys my cost basis because a lot of people were saying I was down. But Tesla, my cost basis is like $190 with Tesla. I'm up on Tesla. I'm not down on Tesla because I buy stocks when they're going down. But then people are always surprised that my average cost is so low. But it's because I buy stocks when they're going down. And a lot of people criticize me for buying stocks when they're going down, and they say that I should only buy stocks when they're going up. But then they're always shocked when they see that my average costs are so low. And they're always like, well, how is it possible that you got such a low cost basis? Well, I always tell you guys how it's possible because I buy stocks when they're going down. That's why my average cost is so low. And the other thing is that I'm not a short-term trader. I'm a long-term investor. So I've been investing for many, many years. And so it's easy for me to have stocks that are up. It's not like I'm some kind of magical fortune teller. I'm not cocky. I'm not I don't like to brag. I don't like to tell you guys, oh guys, all of these stocks are up like an insane amount. I don't like to do that. And I don't even show you, like, anyway, I don't like to do that kind of stuff. But sorry guys, there's a donation. Oh, okay, so Cascades Academy left a $2 donation. He says, forget the haters, Tesla has lots of potential. I agree with you, and thank you for the donation, man. If you haven't checked out his channel, please check it out. So anyway, so I invest long term, and I've been investing for many years. So it's natural that I'm going to have stocks that are up a lot because we've been going through one of the best bull markets that we've ever seen. So and stocks have been reaching record highs. So how am I not going to have some stocks that are up a huge amount? How am I not going to have like Microsoft with a cost average like under $100, and today it's trading at like 130 something? How am I not going to have that? It's just simple. Like I don't even know what to describe it. It's not anything special that I'm doing. Anybody would have had that kind of performance. Amazon Amazon stock, guys, I bought Amazon stock. I've made videos on this channel showing you guys that I was buying the stock when it was trading at like 700, 800, like well below $1,000. I used to make videos saying that Amazon stock should be trading at $1,000 at least, and people called me crazy, and people said that Amazon stock will never get to $1,000. And now look at it. Now everybody has to argue about Amazon stock reaching $2,000. So that's another stock that I've made like over 100% on, and it's my second biggest stock. So for people to say that I'm down on all my stocks, it's ridiculous. Disney, another stock that I'm average cost is probably around less than $100, and today it's trading at like 120 something. So, and that's another one that people say I'm down on. It's like ridiculous. I don't know where they get this information. But however, where they do kind of the narrative that they kind of stick to. Okay, sorry guys, one person here really wants to know about XRP. I like XRP, but it's a cryptocurrency, but I just haven't, honestly, I haven't had enough time to really research it as much as I want to. There's still more research that I want to do about XRP, but I do believe in it. I would like to invest in it, but I just haven't in a long time. Anyway, I want to say one quick thing here. So one kind of fair argument that they have, and it's the only real like narrative that they can stick to, because all my other stocks have performed very well. Excuse me, sorry, 1 second. Is that NEO and 2U have crashed essentially. So NEO and 2U have performed extremely bad. But the thing about these two stocks is that they're the two smallest stocks in my portfolio. They're part of the speculative portion of my portfolio, which is a portion of my portfolio that I fully expect to lose all that money in. I don't expect to actually make any money on that. I actually expect to lose all of that. But even if I was to lose all of the money in my spec stocks, like let's say that NEO and 2U actually go completely bankrupt. And by the way, people say 2U, they say that I'm down like 65%. I'll tell you guys, on 2U, I am down 30%, 30.09% right now. So even with some of these, like they think, which is, I shouldn't even say that like as if it's a good thing. Being down 30% is a huge deal. But guys, and this is just to the trolls, not to you guys, but to the trolls, they have to learn how to do some basic math. Like Microsoft, 22% of my portfolio, Amazon, 16%, Disney, 15%, AT&T, 13%, Alibaba, 6%, JPM, 6%. They're talking about a stock that was 1% of my portfolio, and they're saying that that's the reason why all my stocks are down. I had another person tell me that all of my stocks are down because of NEO. And when I told him, and I had a little argument with him, and I said, and by the way, I'm sorry if I'm kind of venting with you guys, but I actually think it's kind of fun to talk about this stuff. I don't know if you guys think it's fun, but because then people say, oh dude, don't take it so personal. But I really don't take it personal. I just think it's fun to talk about. But I was having a conversation or an argument with someone because they said that all of my stocks are down because of NEO. And I told him, I explained to him that NEO is only 3% of my portfolio. And he said, well, or his response was actually this. His response was he posted a link to every single NEO video that I've made. And he said, look at how many NEO videos you've made. This is your biggest stock. And I was like, are you insane? Like if I talk about a stock, that means it's automatically my biggest stock. Like I can't help it if some of these stocks attract a lot more viewers and people want to talk about these because they're more interesting, they're going through stuff. Like NEO, they're super volatile, so a lot of people are interested in what's going on. Sometimes these crash by a huge amount in one day and people want to know my thoughts on that. So I'll just make a video kind of sharing my thoughts, but it doesn't mean that these stocks are like my biggest stocks. And sometimes Microsoft doesn't really have a lot of news to talk about. And sometimes I make a video on Microsoft and it gets barely any views. Sometimes I make a video on like Disney, it doesn't get that many views. If I make a video on JP Morgan Chase, doesn't get a lot of views. So it's just kind of a balancing act, but I still try to talk about all those. But the problem is that sometimes people only watch these videos. Like they may only watch a video on 2U, they may only watch a video on NEO, and they just automatically assume, oh, this guy only invests in NEO, or this guy only invests in 2U. When in reality, I have all these other stocks. And then the other problem is that I get so many new viewers. Like if you look at my portfolio, if you look at my subscriber count at the start of this year, my subscriber count was like 10,000. Now it's over 30,000. So I have all these new subscribers, and so I have all these new viewers. And what do you think happens when they see me talk about one of these stocks? If I make a video on Microsoft, like say I make a video about Microsoft right now, and I say it's my #1 biggest stock, let's look at what happens. Let's take a look at Microsoft stock really quick. MSFT. So if I make a video about Microsoft stock right now and I say it's my biggest stock, it's trading at $137. It is really high right now. I'm not buying at these prices, guys. Just because it's my number one biggest stock, that doesn't mean that I'm buying the stock at these levels. I've bought this stock a long time ago. Like if we look at the last 3 years, I've bought mostly in this area here where you see like the $100, and every time, and there's been times where it dipped under 100, and yeah, I did buy there, but I also bought in other areas too. So a lot of times 100, less than 100, and those kind of areas. Microsoft is actually a relatively newer stock for me, so I can't lie to you guys and say that I bought like all the way over here and I, made like insane profits. But still, I mean, my stock is still up. The year to date alone, it's up 35%. So it's a stock that's up. But somebody who watches a new video, if I make a new video on Microsoft and I say, hey, this is my number one largest stock, they're going to say, oh, he's buying it right now at 137. So as soon as we have like a market correction or something and say Microsoft drops like 20%, they're going to say, oh, his stock is down 20%. He sucks. Like he sucks at picking stocks and all that kind of stuff. Or he sucks at giving recommendations, which I hate that word. It's one of, I want to like ban that word. I hate the word recommendations because I don't give recommendations. I only share my opinion, and then I tell you guys if I'm buying the stock or if I'm not. So I really do not give recommendations. I think it's so ridiculous that people ask for recommendations. But anyway, and then I'll just finish up here. One last thing, and then we'll go through your comments. But one last thing, Nintendo is only 3%. The only reason I'm holding Nintendo right now is because of Pokemon. So I just kind of want to wait and see what happens. But that's another stock where I've made a lot of profits on, and Nintendo used to be my number one largest stock. But how many people even know that? Probably nobody even knows that, because like I gained like 20,000 subscribers this year alone. So they're all new subscribers, so they don't even know that this used to be my biggest stock. They don't know that I've made a lot of money on this stock. So they just see what's happening right now, and they automatically assume that all my stocks are down. So or they assume that I'm buying at these levels, and then every time that the market has a little dip, or like Trump sends out like a tweet and it brings the market down, they assume like, oh, all of his stocks, like he's down on all his stocks for sure. Like he's losing money on everything. It's ridiculous. But and again, I'm not a trader. I don't trade stocks based on weeks or months. I invest in companies for many years. And again, 2U and NEO, those are speculative stocks. Those are not investments. So people keep thinking that I'm like this like ultra bullish person on NEO and 2U. I'm not. They're gambles. I know that they're gambles, but it's kind of fun for me. Okay. I just said a lot of stuff. Hopefully this was at least entertaining at the very least. I hope you guys enjoyed it. But if you guys want to like ask me any questions and stuff, we can look at some different stocks. Let's see here. I don't know if anybody has been leaving any comments, but let's see here. One person says that his GoPro stock is down. I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to laugh at that. Just GoPro is like one of those stocks that just always seems to like struggle. Let's see here. When will GoPro go back up? I don't know. I should probably make a video on GoPro. That might be kind of interesting. Let's see. Okay, so Ramesh asks if I'm picking up Activision. Probably not. I've had some experiences with Activision. I actually lost money on Activision. So another comment that I always get is from people saying, how come you're never down on your stocks? Or it's funny because I get attacked on both sides. Some people say that I'm down on everything, and then people say that I'm not down on anything. And so it's like I can't be trusted because somehow both are right. Like somehow I'm down on everything and somehow I'm not down on anything. But some people often say like, how come every time that you're down big on a position, it's always a tiny stock? Like it's always something that is like very insignificant in your portfolio. And they say that because of that, they don't trust me. But that's so dumb. Like that's such a dumb argument, because by their logic, they want me to invest in speculative companies, and they want me to throw all of my money into them just so that those stocks will crash, I'll lose money, and then they can trust me. It's like, it's so dumb. Like some people make the weirdest arguments, man, I swear. But Anyway, the reason I bring up Activision Blizzard is because I actually did lose some money on Activision Blizzard. It wasn't a lot, but it was a decent amount. It did kind of hurt me a little bit. But for me, I just got so fed up with management. So when it comes to Activision Blizzard, my biggest problem is management. And if I don't like management, it's really hard for me to invest in a company long term. Excuse me. And I know that somebody said here that Disney will buy Activision. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if they'll buy Activision. Another person says Activision is a great buy. It would be very interesting if one of these companies acquired Activision. But like Disney, for example, Disney has stated that they just want to license their gaming content out to developers and publishers. So they just want to they just want to license their IPs. So their brands like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff like that, but they're not really interested in making video games themselves. That's something that they've stated. The CEO Bob Iger has stated that. So I'm not really sure if Disney would acquire them, but it is an interesting stock for sure, and it's one that I'll definitely always keep my eye on. It's one that I've always kept my eye on. Okay. Vietfo says I'm one of the new subs on here. So, and smiley face. And by the way, I'm not trying to talk bad about my new subscribers. I have amazing new subscribers who leave me like incredibly nice comments and all kinds of stuff. That's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally like just the trolls. It's the internet. You're always gonna have trolls. It doesn't matter to me. It's not a big deal. By the way, if you guys enjoyed the live stream, could you let me know maybe just by hitting the like button, or just kind of reminding me if you guys ever want me to do live streams, I can do them. I promise I'll get more comfortable like as time goes on, because I'm not used to doing live streams. I'm used to sitting behind a camera, having the green screen behind me, and just taking my time, like having all of my thoughts structured very well, and just kind of speaking that way. And my girlfriend's calling me again. And I also don't know how to use all this software, but I will get better. I promise I'll get better, and I'll even do a better backdrop, and I can improve on it for sure. Okay, so let's see here. VFO says I have PEP, so that's Pepsi, Pepsi stock, and they say that they're down. So let's take a look at Pepsi really quick, because Pepsi is like one of the stocks that I've really been interested in. I just never bought it because I've always felt that the valuation was just a little bit too high. But if it was to come down a little bit, so it's come down a little bit, but not much. Yeah, it's actually still very high. So that's interesting because you say that you're down. You must have just very recently bought it, right? So if we look at year to date, you might have bought it somewhere around here, like in the maybe like 135 or 134, something like that. So you're not really down a lot. Yeah, you really shouldn't be down a lot. And the thing, but let's check out the valuation on Pepsi. So Pep. So you look at the trailing P ratio of Pepsi, it's actually very attractive at just 14. But then the forward P ratio is just 21, so that's kind of scary. And then the PEG ratio, but I don't really trust the PEG ratio that much from Yahoo Finance, because a lot of times they just don't have all the analysis. But if we go to analysis, we can see what Pepsi, what they're expected to do in the future. So if we look at their revenue estimates, they're expected to grow revenue by about 3% this year, and then they're expected to do a 4% increase next year. So that's pretty low, but Pepsi is like this giant company, so it's not really a growth stock. It's not at all a growth stock, but it is a decent dividend stock, which we'll look at in a second. But then you look at their earnings growth, and this is where it gets kind of fuzzy, because this year they're expected to go down on their EPS by like 2.5%, and then next year they're expected to grow it by like 8%. So that actually doesn't look that bad. Their P ratio will probably improve a lot like after that, especially if the market goes down. But it's just one of those stocks that I really wouldn't want to buy until the market goes down, because it's one of those stocks that is just never going to really move by much unless you have some kind of big event like a recession or something like that can really bring the stock down. But you look at the dividend yield, and so for me, it's not really worth it that much, because the dividend yield is less than 3%, which is not bad. It's not a bad yield, but at 3%, I just feel like I can get better stuff out there. And But the thing is that they have 47 years of consistent growth. So Pepsi, the reason I like Pepsi is because it's very reliable. So we go through a recession, they're still going to be increasing that dividend. You're gonna have that recurring income coming in from Pepsi. So it's more of like an income stock. It's not a growth stock, and it's a very reliable company. It's not going to move by much, but you probably won't really be down on it a whole lot if you're a long-term investor. You should always really kind of be up. But for me, it's just that kind of company where I would like to pick it up during a recession where it really takes a hit, and then that dividend yield gets way up there, so I get much more return for my money. Because right now, the return I can get for Pepsi trading at like all-time highs is very limited. Like it's kind of capped for me. So I just don't see a lot of potential. But I like what Pepsi is doing. I like the company. I like what they're doing. They're trying to shift away from all the high sugar stuff, and which is a big deal because, and I'm very anti-sugar myself. So I really feel like that's the direction that they have to head towards. But they've shown signs of doing that with like their acquisition of was it SodaStream? I forget what the name is called, but yeah. But they've shown that they're making different acquisitions and moves to kind of improve. Okay, sorry guys, I talked a lot about Pepsi. Let's see here. What else do we have? Someone mentions KHC, which is Kraft Heinz. Let's see. Someone mentions Ford. And oh, sorry guys, let me sorry, 1 second guys, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so somebody mentioned Kraft Heinz, and then another person mentioned Ford. Another person mentioned At Home. Let's see here. When's the next recession coming? Okay, so we'll take a look at some of these. So when looking at like Ford, so I think ticker symbol is F, I believe. So Ford, yeah. So Ford is they should have a very attractive valuation. Trailing P ratio of 17, forward P ratio of less than 7. And then really the great thing about Ford is also that they pay a dividend. But the thing about Ford is that they're going to see very limited growth right now. And I'm not seeing a big enough push into electric vehicles. They're just now, I feel, in my opinion, starting to push towards electric vehicles. But it's going to take some time until they can really tap into that growing market. So in the meantime, what's exactly going to happen? And if we run into a recession, you know Ford's going to get hit very hard during a recession. So basically now we're waiting for their transition to electric vehicles. In the meantime, you may have a recession. In the meantime, until Ford can really do something big in electric vehicles, you may end up with a recession. So that could really hurt them. But the dividend is very attractive at over 6%. So, so that's, I don't know, that's you have to make a call on that. But it's very interesting. I'm probably one of the more bullish people on Ford because I think the dividend is very attractive. I think the valuation is attractive, and I like the direction that they're headed towards because they're now starting to make some moves in electric vehicles. But in the meantime, you run a huge risk because if we run into a recession, what's going to happen? Their payout ratio is over 50%. What's going to happen to their dividend? Are they going to keep paying that dividend? Is something going to happen? Are they going to cut it? And if they cut that dividend, a lot of people are going to leave the stock even more. So potentially you could pick this stock up for a much cheaper price if you think a recession is going to happen soon. And someone talked about when I think the next recession is going to happen. I honestly have no idea. So they say 3 months, 6 months, or 1+ years. Honestly, who knows, guys? Like a recession can happen at any moment. We might not even have a recession for the next 5 years. Like we honestly don't know. And I know everybody always laughs at me when I say that, but I've been saying that for a long time. And every single year people predict a recession. Every single year. So it's not a debate I like to get into because I feel like it's an argument that just kind of goes nowhere. At the end of the day, we have no idea when the next recession will be. In my opinion, there's a lot of indicators that would suggest that we are on the verge of a recession. Like a recession should happen sometime soon. There's a lot of indicators for that. And in my opinion, debt levels are the biggest thing. Corporate debt levels, and then just debt levels in general, consumer debt, the country's debt, all kinds of different debt levels. And for me, that's kind of the issue that I have where I feel like a recession could occur. But but I just have no idea when. But when you look at stock, but there's certain, for me, this is the way I look at recessions. For me, there's certain stocks that I would not pick up unless we have a recession. So for me, I would never pick up Pepsi. I would never pick up Ford unless it was something like a recession where I can get it at the cheapest, like unbelievable prices where everybody's just so negative on these companies. That's when I'd be a little more interested, because otherwise you buy these stocks and they don't really have a lot of growth. So you're going through a very nice bull market where some stocks, like for example AMD, goes up by hundreds of percents, and you're capped at, you're making like what, your company is growing like 2% a year, something like that. I mean, what's the point at that, at that point? You might as well be into some higher growth stocks. So I like to be in growth stocks when we're in a bull market, when the market is really roaring. And then when we have a recession, that's when I kind of look for some of those value stocks that can really tank, and you can really get some cheap prices and get some very nice dividends. Because for me, that's a big deal. Like if those companies didn't even have those really nice dividends, I might not even invest in them at all. Like if Pepsi didn't have a dividend, I don't even know if I would invest in it. Ford didn't have a dividend, I wouldn't even be interested. So that's just kind of how I see it. And I'm not saying that my way is the right way. I'm just saying that that's just how I feel. A lot of people would completely disagree with everything that I just said. Someone says, Divad says, "Hey there, Ali. I love your content." Thank you, Divad. It really means a lot to me. A couple people mentioned Pfizer. Pfizer is really weird. Well, it's not weird. It's just that I haven't done enough research on it. So it's not weird. It's just that I lack the knowledge of it. But they recently just made an acquisition or a merger. It was like a merger that they made. I want to talk about Pfizer soon. So it's a stock that I have to look into. But if you look at Pfizer, which is, dang, can you guys tell me the ticker symbol like right off the bat? What is it? It's probably like PH. I don't know what the ticker symbol is. Anybody know the ticker symbol for Pfizer? Could you tell me really quick? I could just search it. Let me see. Shoot, I'm not spelling it right. What was it? How the hell? Okay, that's how you spell it. PFIZO. Okay, so if we look at Pfizer. Shoot, that's not Pfizer. Hold on. PFE is the ticker symbol. Okay. Okay, somebody, okay, a few people were telling me the ticker symbol. So, okay, so if we look at Pfizer, PFE, let me put it into the chart here so we can take a look at it. PFE. And this stock, guys, check this stock out. So it's like at the bottom of its 52-week range. It's down 16% year to date. In the past year, just 11%. It's not down huge, but this isn't really a stock that I guess you would expect to really move too much. It's still up in the last 5 years, but it has definitely come down a lot recently, and it's down at the lowest levels of its 52-week range. It's definitely interesting because Pfizer also pays a dividend. So PFE, and what is their dividend right now? So their dividend is almost 4%. So they have a pretty nice dividend, some nice dividend growth history as well. And the merger, I forget what the merger was about, but I think they were trying to get rid of like their older business that wasn't really generating a lot of sales. I could be wrong. I probably shouldn't be talking about this stock. I don't know enough about it. I got to do research on it. But okay, so here, if you look at their revenue estimates, their sales are expected to drop by almost 4% this year, and then another 3% next year. I don't know if that's impacted by the merger, so those estimates might be incorrect because the merger might be like affecting that in a different way, but those aren't really good estimates for the future. So Pfizer, you're in a situation where the stock, rightfully so, has gone down a lot, and they have poor growth coming up by looking at estimates, but they have a really nice dividend, and it's a company that's not going to be going away, but they have to make some moves to kind of turn their business around a little bit. So it's interesting. I got to research it more, and I probably will make a video on it, to be honest. I will probably make a video on Pfizer. I honestly think that my stream is really delayed because I get your guys' comments like way later. Like right now I'm starting to see a lot of the ticker symbol for Pfizer showing up, and I asked for that like a long time ago, so I think this is like really delayed. But so I apologize for that, guys. I might not be seeing your comments like right away. And again, I hope that my voice is synced up with what I'm showing you on the screen. Like, okay, for example, we'll kind of test it. Right now, I'm gonna hover the mouse over the word Pfizer. Okay, so tell me if this is correct. I'm gonna count to three. 1, 2, 3, and then I put it right there over Pfizer. If that was correct, let me know in the comment section if that's synced up, because that just helps me improve for the future to let me know if I'm doing everything correctly or if I'm super delayed and everything is all over the place. Okay, some other people here. So one person says CSCO. I think that's Cisco. That might be Cisco, which I like Cisco, but I haven't looked into them in a long time, so I don't really remember much about them. So Cisco, yeah, Cisco 2.67% dividend. So they have a decent little dividend, and the stock, I think Cisco actually had like a lot of immunity to the whole trade war. They were actually performing very well, like even though there was a whole trade war going on. And by the way, I should also mention, because someone here mentioned AMD again. Okay, and everybody says that it's correct. Okay, thank you. So appreciate that. Someone here mentioned AMD again. I forgot to mention one more thing that is actually bullish about AMD, and that's that with the whole trade war going on. So the data center demand in China has been kind of weak because of the struggling economy, and the whole trade war has only kind of amplified the effects of the struggling economy in China. So companies have been more reluctant to spend on upgrading their data centers and things like that. Now, the fact that AMD has a much cheaper chip for the data center versus Intel, that's a big deal, because when these companies are cutting their budgets, so say like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, but even just say Chinese companies too, when they're cutting their budgets, who are they going to turn to? Probably AMD, because AMD has a much cheaper price, and their chips are actually performing just as good as Intel at this point because of the 7 nanometers and all that. So that's another bullish thing to think about with AMD. Even with that's probably why the stock is trading so high, because even with all the trade war stuff going on and the weakening Chinese economy, AMD can still tap into that data center growth. Okay, let's see. So a couple people here saying that they have Cisco. I think Cisco is a good stock, but it's not a company that I've researched extremely heavily, so I don't feel comfortable buying it, but it's an interesting stock. A couple people here say, let's see, Applied Materials. It's another interesting one. I've heard a lot of people say that they like Applied Materials, so that's another interesting one. Caterpillar, another person mentions Caterpillar. That's another interesting one. Caterpillar, also a dividend stock, but Caterpillar has been hurt pretty bad from the whole trade war. At least the last time I checked, but who knows where it's at now. It might actually be doing a lot better now. Let me see. Oh no, so yeah, Caterpillar is actually doing really bad. So it's been a while since I looked at Caterpillar. So someone here's mentioned Caterpillar. I'm not sure if you own it, but if you do, you may have bought it at some of these kind of lower prices. But if you look at their 52-week range, Caterpillar is actually much, it's near the bottom of their 52-week range. So it's actually down quite a bit, down 6% year to date, which is actually not that much. But that might be more recently that they kind of dipped here. They may have released bad earnings or something. I got to look into that. But they kind of started climbing, and then unfortunately they dipped. And then if we look at like their 1 year performance, they're down like 12%, 13%. And then in the last 3 years, they're still up by over 40%. So it's not performing that bad. And then I'll just quickly show you guys the dividend for Caterpillar. And if we look at the dividend for Caterpillar, it is 3.45%. So it's actually a pretty decent dividend as well, and 16 years of growth. So it might be an interesting stock to look at. I'm curious about their, let me see, if we take a look at their valuation. Sometimes Seeking Alpha is a little off, but we'll see. So PE non-GAAP trailing is 10, forward is 10, sector medians are like a bit higher, 16 and 15, and then PE gap trailing and forward is 11 and like about 10, and then sector medians are much higher. So this may actually be a good value for Caterpillar. And some David Wong says Caterpillar needs a trade deal, and yeah, they probably do. I'm sure if I was to look at their earnings, I'm sure I would probably see some mentions of the trade deal. I'm probably sure that I would see some weakness there. A lot of manufacturing has gone down too. We've seen a lot of weakness in manufacturing, and that's been kind of across the globe too. So that could be hurting them as well. So maybe the whole kind of slowdown of the global economy has been hurting Caterpillar as well. But in the future, that could they could perform very well. And it's still, from what I remember, it's a very good company. But let's see. VFO says I will buy Caterpillar after September. Are you expecting that it's going to? Are you expecting that we're gonna have a market correction like we did at the end of last year? That would be really nice. I really want that to happen. Even though a lot of people, even though I know I'll get flooded with people saying, "Hey, you're an idiot. Your stocks are down, all that," but I don't care. I'm gonna be buying up stocks the next time we have a correction. And it's funny. Last time that we had a correction at the end of last year, I was buying stocks left and right, and I made videos saying that I was buying stocks. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying that this is the mentality that people have. I would receive a lot of comments from people saying, don't buy now. It's going to be the worst crash imaginable. It's going to get so much worse. And nobody wanted to buy. And then look at how the market recovered. It reached record highs. So it was a great buying opportunity. And it's one of the reasons why I've been able to get such low prices on a lot of my stocks. And people are always shocked by how low my prices are. But I mean, what do you expect? Like if I'm buying when stocks are going down and we're in a bull market, it's not that I'm doing anything special. It's just kind of common sense. It's just what happens. Let's see here. What do you think about Home? So you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the company that Jeremy has been talking about on financial education? And I have a feeling that you guys are mentioning it because of Jeremy, right? Like, as much as I want to say that like we don't make recommendations and stuff, but when we talk bullishly about a company, it's natural that you're just going to want to look into it and you're going to want to research it because it's natural. I mean, when Jeremy talks about a stock, I also kind of look into it too. It doesn't mean I buy the stock, but it's natural to want to look into it. So I don't blame you at all. But I don't know anything about Home. The only information I've never heard of Home until Jeremy mentioned it on financial education, and it sounds pretty interesting. He makes it sound like it's a very interesting stock, but I don't know anything about them, and where I live, I don't see any of those anywhere. So I've never seen that store. I've never heard of it. So it'd be very difficult for me to invest in them because I just don't know anything about them. Man, these comments are like really delayed. I can definitely tell that these comments are delayed. So I apologize, guys. I'm probably getting to your comments like a little delayed. Let's see. I've heard of Home Depot. Yeah, I've heard of Home Depot too, but I've not heard of Home. Well, shoot, let me look it up. What is? No, because Home Depot is a different ticker symbol. Home Depot is probably HD, right? I don't know. Let's see. Home, I'm pretty sure, is the one that Jeremy was talking about. I think it's At Home. Yeah, that's At Home. Dude, they're way. Oh my gosh, they're 52-week range. They used to be at 37. They're down to less than $5. No wonder he's buying it because it's down huge. I mean, and Jeremy's very similar to me. We like to buy stocks when they're down. Like, see, when stocks crash like this, it just catches our attention. It's natural because it's an interesting kind of story. I want to see what their dividend looks like because I don't remember what Jeremy said about it, but I want to see what their dividend looks like. Oh, they don't pay a dividend. Oh, that's interesting. I thought that they paid a dividend. I guess not. That's really interesting. So if you're buying Home, you're buying it just for the capital appreciation, just for the share price appreciation. And when looking at their valuation, they are way lower than the sector median. I mean, PE, trailing forward, gap, non-gap, way lower, like 4 times lower. And let's take a look at what their future is predicted to be. And these future estimates, they're not anything that I live and die by, but it's just kind of fun to see what Yahoo Finance expects. Well, they're expected to have some decent revenue growth, 18% current year, 16% next year, and then earnings. Earnings are expected to drop 55% this quarter. 61% next quarter, 47% this year. But then they're expected to climb almost 30% next year, and then 15% on a 5-year average. I want to see what they're like. I want to see what their income looks like. Let's see here. So if we take a look at financials, let's see. Okay, so revenue for the last 4 years. So revenue went from 622,000 in 2016, and it's up to, oh, well, I'm sorry, not thousand. It's 622 million because this is in thousands. So 620 million, and it's up to a billion, like 1.1, 1.2 billion. So their sales have definitely been climbing, for sure. What about their net income though? So their net income has been climbing too. I mean, yeah, it's still extremely low, but it's been climbing. But it's, the stock is probably just down because of these EPS estimates. Like if you look at these earnings estimates, down 55% this quarter, 61% next quarter, and then 47% this year. So yeah, I mean, when you're gonna have your net income drop by around 50%, that's gonna be a big deal. But this stock got hammered, guys. I mean, it used to be at $37. Now it's at less than $5. That stock got hammered. It's a very interesting stock. I might have to actually do a video on that one. Somebody says, take that like button to Pound Town. Thank you. I appreciate that. Very nice of you. Dan Hick. So that was Dro Hydro. And then Dan Hickman says, great video, bro. Tuning in from Australia. Keep this coming. Oh, I really appreciate that, Dan. Great to hear from you from Australia. That's very nice. If anybody else is from anywhere else, that's really cool. I'd love to hear it. Frenchie says, it's by the way, one of my favorite viewers, always leaves nice comments, but he says it's down 4%, I think he says, around 485 a share. Oh, maybe he's talking about today, or not today, but the last trading day. I'm not sure. I might be reading his comment like a little delayed or something. Let me see. Trying to see if there's any other interesting comments here. SQ drop. Huge SQ drop. LOL. Okay, we got to take a look at that one then, if that's a big drop. New York, shout out from Portland, Oregon. Wait a second. What is it? Is SQ, is that code for something, or is that a ticker? Oh, Square, yeah. Duh. I sound like an idiot. Square is, so in the last 5 days, down almost 7%. But year to date, it's actually up 15%. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a huge drop to me. Well, but in the 52-week, in the 52-week range, it used to be trading at over $100. Now it's at 65. So yeah, it is down a lot. Let's see, like in the past year. Yeah, so it used to be like above 100. Now it's down to 60, in the 60 range. So it is down a lot. Square is very interesting, but it's another stock that I've just never really researched. But it's one, I feel like I've always looked into them and their valuation was always ridiculous. Let's see if I'm right about that. I might be wrong. But I feel like every time I've looked into it, their valuation just kind of scared me away. Well, they don't have a trailing P ratio because they probably weren't profitable. Their forward P ratio, they do at least have a forward P ratio, but it's almost 60. Their PEG ratio is actually not that bad. It's just a little under 2. But their PS ratio is 7, but that's trailing. I'd be interested to see it on Seeking Alpha because they might give us like a sector median and they might give us some more information. But if we look at Seeking Alpha, PE non-GAAP trailing was 110. PE non-GAAP forward is 84. So that just seems like a really big valuation. Dang, I gotta get some chapstick. My lips are drying up. Sorry, just give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So yeah, Square's valuation just seems too high in my opinion. I mean, for that, I don't know, for that valuation, I feel like I'd rather just stay in AMD. Love AMD, but hesitant to enter due to valuation. So I agree. I mean, the way that I saw AMD was, I thought to myself, if I wasn't in AMD right now, would I buy the stock? And the answer is no. And the answer is no for several of my stocks, to be honest. So it's not really fair that I'm judging AMD based off of that, because I'm not buying a lot of my stocks. I'm just kind of holding some of them. But when you look at some of my other stocks, like for example, Microsoft and Disney and Amazon, I'm not necessarily buying those stocks at these levels, but when you look long term, you can't compare AMD as a company to Microsoft. You just can't compare them. Microsoft is such a stable company. If Microsoft was to crash by 50%, I would have no issue with that. I would have no issue whatsoever. I would only buy more, and I would still be investing long term. Microsoft is this amazing company. If Amazon was to crash by 50%, I would not care at all. I would just add to it. But AMD, I'm up so much on AMD, and if AMD crashes, why exactly did it crash? If Microsoft crashes, it was probably because of like a recession or something like that, some kind of macroeconomic issue. If AMD crashes, it doesn't necessarily have to be a macroeconomic issue. It could just be, it doesn't have to be like a recession or a market crash or a market correction. AMD could crash all on its own, just because it's a very volatile stock. It's in that kind of industry. It's like a high growth tech stock with a very high valuation. And anytime that you have a very high valuation, if you don't always meet or exceed expectations, and usually you have to exceed expectations, your stock really gets hammered by a lot. So they're just different types of companies. I don't see the reason why I have to hold AMD, but I do see the reason why I should hold Microsoft, Disney, and Amazon for many, many years. And that's why they're my biggest stocks. Hey bro, what do you think about IBM? So I've made videos on IBM in the past. If you haven't seen them, you should check them out. But I've actually been one of the more bullish people on IBM, but a lot of people have disagreed with me. Excuse me. Let's take a look at IBM, because I think I've actually been, I think the stock has actually performed pretty well. So okay, in the past week, it's down like over 7%. But I made videos on IBM a very long time ago, and I kind of liked what they saw. But year to date, it's up by almost 20%. But yeah, it's not a great. It's not a like really great performing stock. It's down in the past 3 years. 5 years, it's down almost 30%. So yeah, it's not been a very good performing stock. But my argument was that when it was trading at some of these really low levels, the dividend was getting very attractive and the valuation was getting very attractive. But you took a lot of risk with IBM because they were in a very transitional phase, and they kind of did a desperate thing by acquiring Red Hat, because they really needed to do something just to get some growth. They were really lacking in the growth department, and some of their legacy parts of their business were really struggling. But they did try to do some things, like they tried to sell off a lot of the legacy parts of their business, and they acquired Red Hat. But a lot of people would argue that they way overpaid for Red Hat, and that Red Hat didn't even really help them that much. So there's a lot of ways you could look at IBM. For me, it was too risky, but it was a stock that I was kind of interested in at the time. Someone says I might buy Netflix, good price. This is just my opinion. Please don't do what I say. This is just my opinion. I've never been a fan of Netflix. I've been proven wrong many times with Netflix because it's always performed pretty well. NFLX, I think. But I just can't get there with that valuation, and with like when you have other companies like Disney that can give you exposure to that type of market. And if you're a long-term investor, for me, it just doesn't really make sense to invest in Netflix, because I see more long-term potential with other companies like Netflix or even AT&T. AT&T is another stock that has performed very well for me. I bought that stock at less than 30. I bought it like 27 range, something like that. I have a 7% yield on AT&T. Excuse me, today it's trading at over $30. So it's a stock that I really like, that has performed very well. And even at these levels, AT&T is way cheaper than Netflix, and AT&T also gives you exposure to the streaming market, and they'll be launching their own service that'll be fueled by HBO and a bunch of other stuff, and of course Time Warner. And when you look at Disney, they acquired all that IP and all that stuff from Fox, and they'll be launching their own service. So for me, like Disney and AT&T have much better valuations, and they're more diversified. Although AT&T, you could argue that that's not a good thing, because some of their other parts of their business are really bad. But I like those companies more, and those also pay dividends as well. And I do like dividends. Hey, there we go, $10 donation. I was waiting for someone to give me some money. I'm just kidding, guys. You do not have to donate. But Thank you, Jinak Lee, for giving me $10. Says, thanks for answering my question. Been watching your channel for about half a year. Thanks for good contents. Keep them coming, smiley face. Thank you. Really means a lot to me. It's really like heartwarming. I really love reading positive comments. So thank you. So the person says Disney Plus will be fun to subscribe to. It will be fun for me to subscribe to as well. And I'm looking forward to the Mandalorian show. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. Let's see. I think we may end the stream soon. Netflix is getting more and more competition from big players like Amazon. Yeah. So they're also getting competition from that's another company I'd rather own than Netflix. Thoughts on Walmart earnings this week? I have not looked into it. Did they already announce, or I think they're going to announce? I thought they were going to announce this week, but I haven't looked into it. I gotta look into it. Home stock opinion. Yeah, we just covered home, so you might be new to the live chat right now, but yeah, we already talked about that one. So anyway, I think we'll go ahead and just end. I think we'll go ahead and end the live stream right now. But this was a lot of fun, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. If you guys ever want me to do more live streams, just let me know. Let me know in the comment section. Make sure you remind me. It always helps to know that you guys enjoy these. But anyway, I think that's it. So I think we'll go ahead and end the live stream. Okay, thank you for watching, everyone. And I'm trying to think if there's any like last minute thoughts I want to share, but I don't think there's anything else. I think that's it. Okay, someone says, do you like ETFs? And the only reason I just want to address that really quick, because I got into, not an argument, but I got into a discussion with a viewer, because they say that, well, they were also another person who said that all my stocks are down, but they said that all my stocks are down and I should only be investing in ETFs or mutual funds because they're much better investments. And I just said, I think there's no reason why you shouldn't invest in ETFs or mutual funds or anything like that. I think they're great, especially for beginners and especially for people who don't enjoy researching individual stocks all the time and keeping up to date with them and all that kind of stuff. But I have an entire YouTube channel based on stocks. I research stocks all the time, and I find it very interesting. I'm kind of a stock, like a little bit of a nerd. I like to talk about stocks, and all of my friends and family outside of YouTube and outside here in reality, none of them care about stocks. Nobody ever wants to talk to me about stocks. Some of them do, but very few of them even care about stocks, which I find very weird. I think it's very fascinating. I think it's one of the most incredible things in life that we can actually own pieces of giant companies like Apple and Microsoft and Amazon. I think it's amazing. And I honestly cannot believe that stocks don't get enough attention. I can't believe that people are not interested in stocks. I can't believe that people don't find it interesting. You could probably argue that my videos are very I don't know, I don't want to say dry, but I mean, I have a lot of information in my videos, but I think it's so interesting. So, and when you look at my YouTube channel, it's still very small. It's a very niche market. Not that many people that I can really cater to, but I just think that's so weird. I think stocks should be just as big as gaming or any other really big hobby or anything like that. I think stocks are fascinating, and it always surprises me that people don't care that much about stocks. But I'd have no issue with ETFs or mutual funds or anything like that. I just personally like to pick and choose stocks. I just think it's a little more fun. And for me personally, I'm not trying to brag or say anything, but I usually perform better with just by choosing individual stocks. I keep mentioning AMD, but AMD, because this video is about AMD, it's a stock that I made a ton of money on. So you can't really have that with ETFs in a very short amount of time. So anyway, that's just kind of how I feel about some of this. But okay, so I think that does it for the video. I hope that answers your question. And again, I don't mean to sound negative on ETFs or anything like that. I do like them. Carlos says, I didn't know you were live. Please keep doing them. Yeah, I'll definitely do more lives in the future. Do you have Discord? I do not. I'll probably set one up eventually. Okay, so anyway, thank you guys for stopping by. It really means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later. Take care, and I'm gonna try to end the live stream now.